Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special Halloween episode of the We're So Young podcast. I am here with Brittany Scott, who is one of the founders of the OLD GHOST Auditorium.
It's a tongue twister.
It is a tongue twister. It's hard to say. Tell me about yourself, Brittany.
So, I'm Brittany. I started with the conjoining tattoo shop next to us, which is Creepy Tiki Tattoo. I started almost 5 years ago, working in the shop, kind of doing the business end of things, more paperwork and, stuff like that, promoting and just taking care of the business side of the tattoo shop. And we actually used to have a music venue and bar, which is where we're sitting now. The bar was also owned by my partner, Jackson, who owns a tattoo shop. So the bar was this crazy thing. I mean, we hosted everything from jazz to burlesque to punk rock to metal.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we did everything. So it was really cool. But pretty much what happened was 2 years ago, I would say, the owner of the property sold the building. And to make a long story short, the city kind of cracked down on everything that we were doing and was no more bar because of this, and this. And so we were okay.
And was the tattoo shop still attached to the bar?
Yeah,
okay.
It was the bar and the shop. That's how it had always been, I feel forever.
Cool.
And so yeah, they didn't really care too much about the tattoo shop. It was more the bar because, as you probably know, bars have crazy restrictions and rules and laws and things like that. And so at that point, we just decided to close the bar. And we had a huge space to work with, and we didn't really need all of the space for a tattoo shop. So we were well, what can we do now? What's the next move? And we had always had these weird things in the shop and also in the bar. And people from time to time, pretty often, would ask if they were for sale. And, the answer was always no, because it was personal, private collection. And eventually we kind of were going back and forth, and Jackson actually suggested that we do a museum, because we do have so much stuff that, you just will not see almost anywhere.
Oh, no.
So, we kind of played with that. I'm well, why don't we just do a store, because people want to buy this stuff anyways. And, back then I'm we have obviously this eye for really weird but also really cool stuff, some of it that has a lot of history, and people are really interested in that. And, so that's kind of how it snowballed into what it is now. But I will say, even back then, we didn't even imagine what it is now.
Yeah.
It kind of just took off, and we, every day are challenging ourselves on, okay, how can we outdo ourselves? How can we take it to the next level, next week? And what's the next big thing that we're going to wow everyone with?
Right. And so everybody's clear, and you'll be able to see it in the website. It's Auditorium, ODD.
Yeah.
Itorium.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to spell it because I know I'm going to mess it up. But so you were saying some weird, you collected weird and interesting things. For the people that are listening, can you describe exactly what it is that you consider weird? And we'll describe the room that we're in right now. We're actually recording in the auditorium. So
my partner Jackson, he's been collecting old stuff since a kid, since he was a teenager. He started with old cars, and it kind of just progressed into this, but he carved tikis, he's a tattooer. He's done a lot of things, and he has always been really heavily into tiki and Hawaiiana, stuff like that. And I'd say within the last 10 to 15 years, we really got heavily into circus and sideshow stuff, paper mache, parade heads, vintage Halloween, all these weird kind of things that you just won't find anywhere. And we've created this little haven of
oddities,
weird stuff, that still people come in here and compare us or are reminded of American Horror Story, which to me is a huge compliment, because that's a multi-million-dollar set design company, And So yeah, we have all kinds of stuff from mid-century stuff to, like I said, tiki stuff, old hula girls, velvet paintings, vintage Halloween, everything from masks to costumes to old blow molds, decorations. We have like everything.
Portraits.
Parade heads, portraits.
Yeah, so right now we're in a corner of the auditorium, and just from what I can see around, it's decorated for Halloween.
Yeah.
So there's that, but also you guys have the posters from old circus.
Yeah, the sideshow banners, yeah. So those are definitely our main statement piece here. They fill up the room very nicely, and most people have never seen these in their entire lives, especially young people, because they simply were not alive when sideshows were traveling, and they used these outdoors. But yeah, we have, let me see, 6, I believe, authentic sideshow banners in here.
And it's something that Jack was talking to me the last time I met with you guys, was the fact that these are one of a kind.
Right.
People used to make these sideshow banners for their businesses,
right,
and that was it. So that's really cool. Like, we have the swamp creature, we have Iron Tongue Man. It's incredible, actually, what you see in here. Something that really, for me, kind of gave me the like American Horror Story spook factor are all the dolls. You have a lot of like ventriloquist dolls, and like puppetry kind of old dolls. And the cool thing is like what you were saying, is all these things are not just like vintage, like a couple years back. You guys have from like 1910, 1920s.
Right.
So there's a lot of history in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. We just love old stuff. Like, I have found, which is not like a lot of people my age. I'm going on 30, and people my age are very into clean, sleek, white, modern look, and I'm totally the opposite. I love Victorian things. I like mahogany, dark wood, things that have a lot of detail, and it's just what I'm naturally attracted to. And we've noticed that it's sort of coming full circle. Like they always say, things and trends and fashion comes full circle, and we're headed into 2020, so everybody's kind of joking around saying, oh, it's the 20s again. And I totally believe that whole Art Deco look is going to come back.
Oh, yeah.
Just like mid-century
it's already started,
Yeah. So, we're just like obsessed with old stuff, and I like things that actually have a substance and a story. And, you look at a piece of even furniture and think that, wow, like this has lived and withstood 100 years.
Yeah.
IKEA furniture won't.
No.
So, I love that. I love that these things have seen God knows what and have survived so many, wars and anything you could think of.
Yeah, I was looking up, I think it was your Instagram page recently, and you guys sold this like tea set table thing.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful, and I think it was like 1940s, 1938, I think you said. And it was just, you think of these things and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Like what stories, where did this live, you know what I mean,
right,
before it got to my hands, and there's like an energy to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's, like, me personally, I collect old photographs, and I think that's why I am so just like drawn to them, because I kind of explain it to people, like, it's sort of like an escape for me, and that's what we want to create for other people. When I look at an old photograph, I don't just think about how, oh, these are some strangers, I go into this whole imaginative thing, and I'm like, oh, I wonder who these people were and what their names were, and how old they were in this photo. And a really cool story that I have about old photos is one day we were out picking, and we met this guy who had just this huge trunk, like a suitcase full of just old photos, Victorian, so very old, 1900s to, I'd say, probably 1920s. And
wow,
I couldn't like leave it. I was like, I have to get this, so I got it. We came back here.
Is
and
that
we unloaded.
the suitcase that's what you have over
here?
Yeah, that's really cool.
So I went through it for probably 2 hours looking at every single photo. There was letters in there. There was all kinds of stuff. And it actually was one family that all of their photos somehow stayed together. And they were from somewhere in Michigan. And it documented this little girl. I still get chills when I think about it. she her name was Josephine, and there's photos of her as a baby to all the way until she's 26 years old. It shows her with her husband, her child, and it's like her whole life is documented, and I saved that. So, you know, I don't know where obviously her relatives are, but I think that that's so cool. I'm keeping this person and, you know, her family alive in a sense.
Yeah.
Because they weren't just thrown in the trash.
It's like a time capsule.
Absolutely, yeah. And I just think I'm like so fascinated by things like that when you know, whole collections are kept intact and together, especially with a family. I mean, it's so rare to find that. And so that was really, really cool. There was letters that she had written home. I guess she had moved a ways away with her new husband and her baby, and she had written letters to her mother, you know, saying that she made it home on the train, and thank you so much for the fresh cookies that you know, she baked them. And it was really cool, like really just really awesome. But yeah, I mean, I love to like preserve what we do. That's like our goal here, really, is to preserve and honor these old things that most people, you know, would look at and be like, it's junk, throw it out.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And how do you find some of these things? Like, where do you go? How do you do this? You know, like
we
like I come here, I guess,
right,
but like
yeah. So we often like joke, you know, about dumpster diving, but that's like a huge thing. We have found a lot of stuff just that people are throwing out. And, you know, that's why there are people like us, because we see the beauty in things that people don't see. And, you know, maybe they're just sick of it, or maybe it's falling apart, but that's also something that we do here. We restore furniture and electronics, you know, stuff like that. So we find things in the dumpster, literally the side of the road. We go to estate sales. I mean, we dig through anything that we think may have potential. We're there. Rain or shine, doesn't matter. We're like totally committed to finding stuff.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that you have, which I didn't really see on the way in this time, but I saw last time, was you have the really old camera.
Yeah.
That it's the kind of camera that used to have those light bulbs that needed to like explode.
So yeah, it's a tin type camera.
It's so cool.
That's another huge piece that people are just like, what? And that's honestly, maybe I've seen a bunch of them, but not in that near perfect condition with the
perfect.
Stand. Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's beautiful. There's no comparison.
There really is some beautiful, cool stuff in here. You have that accordion that for some reason every time I come it catches my eye.
Yeah.
I have a thing for accordions. I think in a past life something happened.
You could be, yeah.
Because
could be.
I literally, I'm an actor, and I've had a couple roles where I'm like, hey, can my character play the accordion? For no reason. I have no idea. I'm like not musically inclined.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so every time I've come in, I mean, I haven't been here too often, but that's caught my eye. So you have so many cool things. Something else that caught my eye last time we were here was the taxidermy. You have a lot of taxidermy animals, and it's not like, I mean, it is a regular taxidermy, but it's not because they're from so long ago. Like you have like the Chihuahua taxidermy from what year is that?
It's from the 1900s. It's Victorian, and with taxidermy, it's like a weird thing. We get a lot of positive, but also a lot of negative reactions to it, and I totally understand it. I mean, I'm not, you know, we say every time we post some kind of vintage taxidermy, we like make disclaimers at this point. You know, we're not advocates for killing animals at all, and we're not going out and doing that, you know, now. But with these things, I mean, again, it goes back into the preservation of an animal, like that it has withstood 100 years and it still looks pretty decent.
Oh yeah,
blows my mind, because it's not wood, it's not something that's sturdy, it has hair or fur, and I mean, it's amazing to me. So like these things,
and also you think about the history of it. At the time, it wasn't taboo.
Right.
So.
Matter of fact, the taxidermy Chihuahua specifically in the Victorian era, they did that as honoring. They were honoring their animal that has passed. They didn't want to let go completely, you know?
Right.
And families that were rich, typically, that had money, only would do that. So that's how you kind of would know, like, oh, this came from a wealthy family back then, which I also think is very cool to kind of piece together the history. But, I mean, you know, when it comes to, like, smaller animals and stuff, there's a huge market for Victorian dogs. And that's, again, like a thing that wealthy people would do. So there's not very many, but they are out there. And, you know, to me, it's like you have to just appreciate the art form of that.
Right.
Because you don't see it every day. And yeah, like we just tell people, you know, the animal sadly has been dead now for 100 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's better that we're, you know, taking care of it and we're like,
preserving.
You have a home here than
Yeah.
dumping it in the garbage. I feel like that's better than, you know, the alternative. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm fascinated by
Yeah, I'm
upkeep
telling
of
you,
them.
I like look at every corner, and every time it's like something else. You
Yeah.
know? Like it's really cool. So because this is a Halloween episode, I last time I was here, we talked about some of these things kind of having a life of their own.
Yeah.
And
they do.
Yeah, and you know, like I love that they have a home here and
Right.
you embrace it. But
Yeah.
can you tell me any stories of any of the stuff that you've gotten? And
So, I have like 2 stories that stand out and that come to mind because we do get this question very frequently when people come in. You know, we have a lot of weird stuff. It looks haunted. Oh, you have ghosts here? You know. So yeah, we had found this ventriloquist doll that was very
of course,
old.
it's a ventriloquist doll. Oh,
Yeah, it
Gives
was
me
it was a
heebie-jeebies.
Charlie McCarthy doll that was from, I believe, like 1910, between 1910 and 1920s. It was very old.
is it still here?
No, we actually sold it.
Oh, okay.
So we had he was in his full like original little suit. He had his monocle still. He was really amazing. But I will say very, very creepy looking. So we were at this sale, and this belonged to this woman, and we ended up buying a bunch of stuff from her. But we ended up getting some stuff shipped back. So he was one of the things that got shipped back to us that we didn't actually physically take. And when he arrived, we, you know, opened the box, and there he is. I'm not thinking anything of it. I pull him out, and I see that there's like a smaller wrapped package. So I'm like, you know, sometimes people send thank you notes or whatever it is, and so we open it, and it's actually this really old piece of paper, like a scroll, and a tiny vial of salt. So I'm like, what did we just do?
Oh my god.
And yeah, so I open like the paper, and it has this Latin like phrase on it, and we were just like, what is this? Because we didn't see it when, you know, we found him originally, and we're like, maybe it's a mistake, you know, we're trying to talk ourselves out of it, like, oh, we don't know, you know, she probably put it in the wrong box. And so we end up sending her a message like, hey, we got this kind of weird extra apparatus with this guy, like, what's this all about? And she just kind of straight up told us, like, listen, you know, I've had this doll for so long, and he's known to be mischievous, and she told me that if weird things start happening or if things start to feel a little bit off, it's probably him. Put him in the center of the room, you know, surround him in a circle of salt, and repeat this Latin chant 3 times, and everything should kind of calm down for a while. And she was totally like, she just told me that she had a turkey sandwich for lunch. It was totally normal. So we were like, what? And so we
Is
kept
this
him
one of the
here.
first times that you were experiencing
Yeah.
this kind of, okay.
I mean, I will say, like, you know, being in here, I'm here alone a lot, so I'll come in early in the morning, or I'll be here late at night, whether it's, you know, fixing displays or moving things around or packing. And yeah, absolutely, there's been times where I know for a fact that I'm here by myself, and I will just hear footsteps, like, loud, like plain, clear footsteps, and I'm just kind of like, okay, well, hi to whoever's here, you know. There's that, and then there's like that feeling of having your back turned and somebody's just standing right behind you. That frequently happens.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, but I tell everybody it's nothing that I have ever felt here is malevolent. It's not bad. It's not, you know, I tell them, like, it's not like the movies where the doll's gonna wake up and start chasing me with a knife. Like, it's nothing like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we kept him here for a while, and you know, I will say that when that specific doll was here, there was definitely more of that hair on your back, like, stand up feeling, like something is like kind of just right on top of you, but you know you're alone, that kind of thing. But still, nothing really to like be like, oh my god, we need to have an exorcism. So I had these really great clients of ours come in from Fort Myers, and they took a day trip over, and they had bought some stuff from us before, and the one guy is like super into haunted items. Like, that is his thing. He loves it. He searches for haunted things to bring home. So he came in and he was like, do you guys have anything haunted? I'm like, yes. And I told him the story. I'm like, I didn't even get halfway through. I just told him that he came with a vial of salt, and he's like, sold, I want him. I'm like, okay. So he took him, and he's been living happily with him ever since. But so that's like one
Has he come back with any stories about him?
Yeah, I mean, he has like, I talk to him every so often, and he has a couple of like what he says, are haunted dolls, and he says that there's always kind of weird stuff going on in his house that, can't really be explained, I guess. And it's just like such a crazy thing that people are into that,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's been times here too when we've been out looking for stuff, and like I said, we go anywhere, and we've literally picked stuff up in our hands and been like, oh no, I gotta put this down. It just doesn't sit right, and for whatever reason that may be, we can't really explain, we're not really sure, but we choose to let it kind of go somewhere else, or stay where it's at. I had the same thing happen to me with this boudoir doll. So those are typically from the 20s, and there are these really like big, usually probably over 2 feet, dolls. No, I have one here. It's around the corner. I'll show it to you. But they come with these really detailed, beautiful dresses. They're very girly. They have curly hair, makeup. They're really, really pretty, and I love them. So I found this one, and I brought it to my house because I was planning on keeping it. And I brought it home, and I have a lot of weird stuff in my house. I have baby dolls and doll heads and just, Victorian stuff. I'm really into like real old stuff.
Yeah.
And I have a dog, and she typically is not affected by anything that I have or anything I bring home until this doll. And I bring her home, and I sit her on my sofa kind of in the corner near the armrest, and my dog is like immediately alerted, which I was kind of like, oh no. Because they say that dogs, they can sense spirits and see ghosts and stuff like that. So I kind of just played it off. I'm like, it's nothing. But she proceeded to get up on the couch and stare at this doll. Like, I've never seen her act like this with anything. And she was just staring at it, like, intently, like, she was waiting for something to literally pop out of it. And I, tried to get her to smell it. Like, it's just a doll, And she growled. She started growling at it. And I was like, oh my God. Like, this can't be happening. So I kind of tried to talk myself out of it. And, it's, she's just being weird because it's big and, whatever. And that night I went to sleep, and I had nightmares the entire night. Not like normal nightmares, though. I can't even explain them. And I kept waking up. Every single hour I would wake up, and I would go check if the doll was still there, because I was just totally freaked out at that point. And I would always wake up freezing cold but sweating. So after that night, I was kind of I was like, okay, this has got to go. And I brought her here. And still, every time, like, we have a really old Victorian settee in the front of our store, and I sat her there, and we have a girl that used to work here, and she would say that every time she would go over in that area, it was just freezing cold, like freezing cold. And but yeah, I had another lady that was into haunted dolls that ended up buying her. So I haven't really heard. She actually lives in the Middle East, so I haven't really heard too much from her. But she bought her, no complaints yet. So I don't know.
That's
crazy.
That's so cool.
It isn't always dolls. Like, we have I think Jack might have mentioned to you the parrot that we have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we have an extremely old, probably from the 30s, taxidermy macaw parrot that has been here probably for like 5 years now. It was a gift to him when he had the tiki bar. He was brought over from Hawaii, and this bird belonged to a local tiki bar in Hawaii that it was their family pet. They had it for God knows how long. I mean, those birds can live up to like 80. Yeah. So they probably had it, in the 1900s. And they, the last owner taxidermied the parrot and kept it in the tiki bar. And kind of what happened was the bar was closing, and one of his friends happened to be there, and he kind of got a hold of it, luckily. And the one detail that I think is really cool about the story is that the son that, was handling everything being sold, he told Jackson's friend that he's only going to give it to him if he promises it'll end up in another tiki bar. And we had one, so that's why we got to have him. And he brought him over. We were like, oh, so cool, it's a parrot. It's really super rare to find taxidermied birds like that. And
it's like intact.
Yeah.
I remember that caught my eye too when I was watching. He's kind of hidden, but it's hard to miss.
Yeah.
Like
once you see him, you cannot like unsee him. Yeah. He looks like real. And so he came over here, and we were all like, oh my god, this is like really cool, So we perched him at the top of the bar, and the way like the back of the bar was set up was we had really high ceilings, so we had a lot of shelving behind the bar that held tiki mugs and bottles of liquor and kind of just random decor. Mm-hmm. So we put him all the way at the top of that, and one night we had a show. It was in the middle of the week, and the bartender at the time, it was probably close to 3 a.m. The bar had closed, and they were doing their kind of like nightly closing cleanup kind of thing. And the bartender that was here, she freaked out and called Jackson crying, that he needed to come back, that she's not going back inside because that bird just fell from the top of the shelves. And like how it was in here back then, like there would have been no music playing, for the possibility of bass to shake him down or really strong fans blowing. I mean, it was like dead air kind of up there. So there was like no real...
And he's like on a stand thing.
Yeah, he had like a piece of driftwood that he was like nailed to. So he was like sturdy. It wasn't, when we put him up there, it wasn't like he might fall down one day, so be careful. He was up there, and he was up there for good. And so she freaked out and was like, oh my god, you gotta come back, this bird is haunted. And he was like laughing. He's like, what do you mean? And she's like, it just fell from the top of the bar and landed standing straight up. Didn't fall on his side like you would think. It fell from pretty high, and it landed standing straight up. And this happened more than once with different bartenders real late at night here, closing and cleaning and stuff. It happened a couple of times, and it just became this thing of like, oh my god, this bird is haunted. And we don't really know like why he was throwing himself off the shelf, but we moved him a little bit lower, and it stopped happening. So we just joke and say like, he was afraid of heights, he didn't want to be up that high, or he wanted to be closer to the action or something. But yeah, it was such a weird thing. I mean, just so crazy, like things that just can't be explained. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's definitely energy attached to a lot of this stuff here.
Yeah, I mean, you come in and you feel it.
Yeah.
Like you feel something. Like I remember coming in. So fun fact, I came in because we were looking for stuff for the haunted house, and I passed by this building almost like a lot, because I would go to the like yoga like a couple miles north, and I like taking US1, and so I'd pass by this, and one day I'd like look it up, and I'm like, honestly, I'm scared to go in there by myself. Like I was like, I don't know, I don't know what that is, So when we were doing all this research for this haunted house, I told my boss, I was like, there's this place, it looks really cool, but honestly, I don't want to go in by myself. Come with me.
That's funny.
And and so we came in here, and there was totally like but I wasn't like a fear kind of feeling. Like I think that's it. Like I expected to be like scared when I came in, and on the contrary, I wasn't scared, but there was just this energy, and it's that's why it's so cool to me, because you can feel the history in this place.
Yeah, I mean, I like again, we have a lot of, I mean, that's like so big now, paranormal hunters and paranormal this, and and I get it. I'm like really into that stuff too. So we do have a lot of people that ask us, is this place haunted, and like, is there ghosts here? Have you seen anything? And, you know, I tell them the same thing that I pretty much just told you, is like, yeah, absolutely. You cannot expect to, you know, have old things and collect old things and not have anything attached to it. I mean, like I said, you know, we have some wax mannequins in here that have literally, we've seen, like, we've matched photos of them to storefronts in France in like the 30s and 40s, which is mind-blowing, you know, and which was when, you know, the war was happening. So to just think that a lot of these, specifically the wax heads and the mannequins that we have, came from Europe, came from France, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, you know, and especially like the German stuff, you know, or even the French stuff. I mean, it's crazy to think about that these things survived World War II. God knows what happened to the stores that they were put inside, but these things made of wax on top of everything lived and still are beautiful now. And that those are another like item that we have in here that just blows people's minds, that they're so old,
Right.
and still look like a person. I mean, there's one in here that's a male that he just looks like he might start talking at any point. So, you know, it's like I love to get that reaction from people too.
Yeah.
That, wow, like, is this real, you know? And then I can explain, yeah, it's real, you know, it's from this era. And
Yeah.
'cause most people, like I said, they have never seen stuff like this.
One thing that really, I think I took a picture of it because I kept thinking about it, and it honestly did creep me out.
Yeah.
Was, I don't know if that's the wax doll you're talking about. There's a doll on this, like on the other side.
So yeah,
Is it the one with the hair
it's
and
a
the
full
teeth?
body. Yeah, it's a child's mannequin. That's actually from the late 1800s.
It has real human teeth.
Yeah, he's very. I mean, I love him to death. We call him the Young Lord because of how he's dressed. He's very. I can't even explain how he looks. He looks like, you know, a Victorian little boy.
Yeah.
And
he looks very real.
Very real. Yeah. I mean, when we got him, we got him from Belgium, I believe, is where he came from. And I mean, there were just times where I would stare at him. This sounds crazy, but
No,
I would just
it's
stare
hard
at him.
not to.
Yeah, and I would think he's gonna blink. Like, he looks so real that it looks like he's gonna blink at any moment, and it's gonna scare me to death. But I mean, they just made them so lifelike.
Yeah.
And so realistic. And, you know, it's definitely an art form that is completely lost now. You know, you go in stores now, it's like sometimes they don't even have a face.
Right.
So that's another huge thing of
So would those be like dolls that kids played with?
no, that would actually be that would be likely in like a storefront or in a store, modeling children's clothes.
Oh.
That's what he would be used for, yeah. Or hats, or, you know, anything like that. Usually when it's a full body, that's what they were used for, was like stores.
Like mannequins,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah, they would either be used to model clothes or hats or jewelry, sunglasses, shoes, you
Do
know,
you know
whatever.
what the story is behind? He has like human teeth. Like how?
I don't know. Like, we also have, I don't know if he mentioned to you, we also have a ventriloquist doll that was unfinished, that we have since painted, but that came with some kind of human or animal teeth in it. I mean, you could just tell because porcelain teeth look very different.
Yeah.
They're almost perfect looking, which is what a lot of mannequins that have teeth, that's what they would use back then, is porcelain teeth. But like these things, the teeth are like, I mean, they're like, they have ridges and they look like human teeth. And when we got it and we were painting it and I opened the mouth, I was like, ew, because it literally looks like a molar, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just so freaky to me. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes like we find stuff that I spend hours and hours researching, because that is another thing that I take great pride in. We want to be informed about what we're finding, you know?
Right.
And I like to place a story with everything that we find, or a reference, or like some kind of idea of what it was used for, where it came from. And yeah, some things I just can't find anything on. So then we kind of just, you know, make up in our own head where we think, you know, it came from, or what they used it for, or whatever the
Context clues,
case.
essentially, too.
Yeah.
Because you do so much research, you start to just learn things on
Right.
your own.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in here that you are just like you can't part with? Like it's here, but you know that like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely the sideshow banners, the wax heads. Like, I mean, you just can't. You don't find them. You know,
Yeah.
you don't find them, and I think that, you know, with like Jackson and I, we talk a lot about television and stuff like that, and like a lot of people watch American Pickers, for instance. And if you watch that show, it's these two guys, you know, the show's been on for years now, and it's these two guys that are like, you know, pickers, and they go around and they pick people's barns and their house or whatever the case is. And these two guys specifically, they have come up on so many sideshow banners. It's just unbelievable. But I remind people, you know, it's a TV show, and nothing on TV is what it seems. Nothing. So, you know, they have crazy intel, and, you know, they're not just rolling down the street and they happen to run into this barn and they go in and they just happen to find these things. That's
Right.
just, it's not how it works, you know? And specifically, actually, in Florida, a lot of, it's hard to, like, keep things like that. Wax heads, banners, whatever it may be,
so
because
hot.
of the weather.
Yeah.
Right. So
Humid.
it depends, you know. Like in Tampa, well, not Tampa, but there's a town called Gibsonton that I tell everybody to go to. I'm sure that most people are like, I'm never going there. But it's a very, very small town where the sideshow performers that used to be in the sideshow, they migrated there to retire. And they all lived there as a little community of freaks. They built restaurants, they built schools, they built everything around their, you know, how they were
Their
for
community.
small people, for the tall man. I mean, they built to accommodate. And still to this day, there are family members of these people that live there still. I mean, they have crazy stuff. I know up until a few years ago still, these families had like pieces of Ferris wheels in their front yards. Like, that's the kind of place that it was. So, I mean, it's just, you know, it's like amazing.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people think Florida for Freak Show, because of Gibsonton. And there was a, in Tampa specifically, there was a lot of sideshow banner painting going on there. Some of the banners that we have in here are from Tampa. So I also think that's really cool because we're in Florida too.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the sideshow banners. I think you would have to rip them out of our fingers. And the wax heads totally, because those are so rare, and you know, even the market has gone up for them because
Right.
they are so rare, and you know, you just don't find them. That if you do find one, you know, they're crazy money.
Yeah.
But those are genuinely things that if we let go of them, we would never ever probably see them again. So, you know, we kind of weigh well, yeah, we're not selling them, we're not making, you know, we're not doing business off them, but we will never find them again if we let them go.
Right.
So that kind of, you know, again, you know, touching on preserving and honoring the history of these things, that in that sense matters a little more to us than making money, because we don't want to see them ruined or thrown in the trash or, you know, sold to the wrong person that
Right.
dripped blood on them to be a haunted house prop. You know, there are mannequins for that.
Yeah.
Those are like a totally different ballgame. So yeah, I think that's like probably the top two things that we would never part with in here.
I can't even imagine this place without the banners.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
it's just like
it's a
it
staple
lives
for
here,
sure. Yeah.
But you guys also host sideshows and stuff. You guys just did one recently, right?
So what we did was, yeah, we hosted actually a sideshow banner symposium. So our really good friend Mike, who lives in New York, him and his father actually, they have a huge sideshow banner collection. His dad has been collecting for years and years, and Mike just wrote a book with the last living sideshow banner painter. His name is Johnny Maya. And they collaborated. They did a really wonderful book with a lot of information about sideshow banners, the painters, the well-known artists, and kind of just like information on you know, as much information as they could get, because sideshow banner painting was like a really tip-top secret, really just like quiet world. They did not want to share their trade. They didn't want anybody to know about it. because of course they would lose business. They wanted to be the only guys doing it. And they really, in the book, it kind of goes into how they did not want to give up their ways at all, which I think is really cool because it's so mysterious. And but yeah, so he wrote this really great book, and he flew down here. He brought some of his banners to kind of like as a gallery, and he did a talk about some of the artists, the history, how to spot authentic sideshow banners, how to recognize certain artists' work on sideshow banners. And we had a lovely performer that did fire breathing, and he was like a human blockhead. He nailed nails into his nose.
Oh my gosh.
He was a magician. I mean, he was like truly a jack of all trades. He was really awesome. His name's Remy. And so we had him, and I mean, it was overall just a really great night. We had such a good time. It was really intimate and a lot of information for people that are like into that. It was really, really cool to hear from like a guy that really knows a lot and has also personally talked to a sideshow banner painter from the 50s. So it was really cool. So yeah, we plan to do more events like that, especially for October. We're trying to do like a small magic show here.
Cool.
Stuff like that. Yeah, we want to start to bring that atmosphere to South Florida because there's not a lot of places to go for that here. So we want to start to do that, and that's the plan. I mean, so far so good. So
yeah. And people ask you to see if you could sleep over here,
yes.
right? Have you let people sleep over?
Not yet. We do have the inquiry quite often for people that are like into haunted paranormal stuff that are like, yeah, would you let us ever kind of stay the night, or they ask if we can do like an event, sort of like an overnight kind of thing, and I'm totally down for it. I told Jackson, I'm like, we should totally do it and invite, because I know that there is a group in South Florida that are like ghost hunters, and they do a lot of paranormal stuff, and I told him, I'm like, we got to get on that, because I'm sure, I mean, they would pick something up here. It's funny, I had a family that came in from Minnesota, and they were here vacationing. They kind of just saw the sign outside, and they came in, and they had 3 kids, and the daughters were like really into ghosts and ghost hunters or whatever. They were telling me that they watched the show and whatever, and so she had some app on her phone, and before I was talking to the parents first, and before I had spoken to her, I kept looking at her like, what is she doing? Because she had her phone like real close to her face, but she was looking down and she was walking. I'm like, oh my God, she's gonna bump into something, And I'm like, what is she doing? I could not figure it out. And so she finally walks over to me, and she tells me, or she asks me rather, if I have any stories about haunted stuff in here. And I'm like, well, yeah, So then she ends up telling me, I forget what she called it. I guess it was sort of like an EVP app, like a tracker, like a ghost tracker app on her phone. So that's what she was doing. She was going around to see if I guess she could get any kind of, activity
frequency,
or anything. Yeah. So then she turned on some other app that says words. It throws words out at you. And I mean, I don't really know how it works. I guess it's like whatever spirit, this is how they're communicating with you. And I had heard the voice of the app talking when she was towards the back of the store. I was more in the middle, but I didn't know what it was saying. So when she came back up to me, it was the group of 5, of them and me, and there was 2 other people in the store at the time, and we were all talking, and all of a sudden the phone freaking says audience, and I'm like, oh my God. So we all start freaking out, and we're like, what? That's so weird, so that was like a really weird occurrence. Of all words, there was a group of people, and I'm sitting there talking to them, and then the spirit or whatever, said the word audience. So I'm sure that they would pick something up. So I told...
I mean, you guys have a Ouija board
in
the front, and it's an old one.
Yeah, it's from the 40s.
It looks... it has, like, the hand thing. What do you call that? I don't know.
Planchette.
Yeah. It, like, that was obviously one thing I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But would you let something like that happen in here, like a Ouija board kind of?
Yeah, so we've like talked about having people stay overnight. Obviously, I would stay here with them.
Yeah.
Kind of do like an overnight seance. We've talked about doing, the whole nine. I mean, we've talked about inviting paranormal hunters here for the night. I know a lot of them do like YouTube or podcasts or whatever it is, kind of to do collaborations, and because I do think it's extremely interesting, and I would love to. I don't know anything about that. I'm not like an expert at all. I know what I feel, but I don't know how to use the technology that they do. So I think it would be really fascinating to see what they saw or could find here. But yeah, I mean, we're like, that's what I love about this store, and we're, about like how we are. We're just kind of like really open to everything, and we want to explore all avenues and try new things, and kind of see what works and what fits here, because we are so, I mean, we have so much stuff that varies, that we could kind of do almost anything. So yeah, we do have the frequent flyers that come by are like, hey, have you considered letting us stay yet? But yeah, I'm like,
have
totally
you
open
stayed
to
the
it.
night before?
I haven't stayed the full night, but there have been times, like a couple months ago, the FPL branch that's over here in Fort Lauderdale like exploded. A huge fire broke out in it, and so my power went out in my house, and it was pretty late. It was like 11 o'clock, 11:30. I only live 10 minutes from here, so I have a small dog. I was like, my phone was dying. I'm like, oh my god, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna go to the shop because we still had power here. So I came over here with my dog, and yeah, it's definitely creepier at night. Absolutely. I'm not scared to stay here because I feel, as weird as it sounds, that like I know whoever's here, and whoever's here knows me. We're fully acquainted now because I'm here every day.
This is you're here probably more than you are at home.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm not, I'm not like, oh, I'm not gonna go in there because it's nighttime. But yeah, sitting in here like at midnight, I'm definitely, my eyes are open and my ears are perked because I'm freaked out. Definitely, there's moving and there's rustling, and I'm like, nobody's here. What is that? But again, I'm not so scared that I run out of here.
Yeah, it's not like a threatening kind of thing.
No, not at all.
Which
not
I
at
think
all.
is important.
Yeah.
To because if it were threatening, you wouldn't be in here.
No way.
Right.
No way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like, me and Jackson joke around all the time because when we come in and out, I used to mess with him and be like, did you say goodbye? Did you say hello and good morning? Which I do, because I have had really weird experiences with what I think are spirits and ghosts personally outside of the store. And, I don't want to make anybody mad. So I make sure everybody knows that they're welcome and respected, and, and I kind of go about my day and go on my way. But, I want these things, because they are not evil and bad and, nasty, I want them to feel like they have a home here. And, until the next person snags them and puts them in their home, they should feel honored and preserved and like, I'm living the life for now,
Yeah.
Because what's the alternative? To be in the dumpster somewhere. Right. And I don't want that. Neither of us do. But yeah, so we'll see. Events and weird things are coming. Slowly but surely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Slowly but surely.
So we're approaching the end of the episode.
Okay.
What's something that you would tell, like, I don't know, maybe like 15, 16-year-old Brittany?
I would definitely tell myself to go 150% with my gut. If you like weird stuff, don't let other kids make you feel like you're a weirdo or you're not as cool as them, or, whatever. Just really, truly accept who you are and the things that you like and the things that you're into, how you want to do your hair, how you want to dress. Just be who you are, because once you're, 15 years later, none of that is going to matter.
Yeah.
And, the sooner you accept who you are and love who you are, as cheesy and corny and cliche as it sounds, the better off in life you'll be able to be. I feel completely like at peace with myself inside, because now finally in my life I'm doing what I feel I was put on the earth to do. I feel like I found my purpose. This is like where the plan was always leading me. You know, I've had a lot of jobs. I've done retail to food to, I've done everything pretty much. I've worked in Disney, like I've done so many things, and this is like, I mean, it makes me pop out of bed every day, truly. So, you know, just kind of like stay true to yourself and what you like and what you believe in, because eventually, you know, when you're out on your own, you'll be able to do those things, and nothing that anybody said or felt will even matter to you anymore.
Yeah.
Like at all.
I love that. Yeah, you find your group.
Absolutely.
Find your group once you accept yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's a constant thing. I'm still as an adult in quotation marks. I still am trying. You know, it's a constant like reminder.
Of course. What you put out definitely is what you attract back.
Yeah.
So I think if you exude confidence and, you know, you're sure of yourself and you know what you like and what you're into, even if people are not into it too, they will still respect that aspect of you.
Right.
You know, there's people that come in here that I know are not into some big goofy circus head or whatever, but because I'm so passionate about it, I can see how it kind of overflows into them with how I talk about it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of sparks interest. Maybe they will never look at it again, but for that 5 minutes, it's enough for me, because I shared knowledge with them, I shared a little bit of past and history with them, they found it interesting, and maybe it changed their outlook on, you know, what they used to think about a carnival or a circus or whatever the case may be. So, you know, I think that whatever you put out, you definitely will attract way more of it back into your life.
100% agree with that. What's something new that you've done recently?
I think that within the last couple of years, you know, like I said, since really the birth of this store, I've come into really what I kind of coincides with what I just said about, you know, what would I tell my younger self. I've really come into who I am as a person, and you know, I'm not afraid to express what I like and what I feel in fear of others and their opinions, and that's definitely something new for me within the last couple of years, to really truly be unapologetically myself and like what I like, and, you know, come to work every day and work really hard and strive for, you know, these crazy things that I think in my head, you know, maybe running a circus one day, things like that other people would kind of look at me like, okay. But, you know, we've come this far, and this was just sort of like a figment of imagination at one point, you know, and now we're here, and it's turned into something so much bigger, and I know that it's gonna just only go up from here. So, you know, that's, I would say, like, to kind of nail down, definitely just not being sorry anymore for me and what I like, and, you know, what I'm into, and what I feel my purpose is. I don't live for anybody else, just me. And, you know, I think that that's pretty, it's something to pat myself on the back for.
100%.
You know, because you get caught up in the everyday hustle and bustle of, like, you know, life, and we often forget about ourselves. So I think that's my new, it has nothing to do with the store.
No, but that's great. That's great. I mean, that's what I like to hear. You know what I mean? Like, that's, you know, these are constant things that people work on every single day.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
I agree.
What's something new you'd like to try?
So, definitely getting out more, not only as myself, but with the business, with the store. I want to start doing shows, markets, stuff like that, to where we're in a platform with other people, and we're kind of face to face with a lot of different people from different walks of life, and you know, spreading, like, the word of, like, what we're trying to do outside of the comfort of the store. So getting out and doing, whether it's local shows or shows far in other states, doing that is something that I really, really am striving to begin to do here. Because Instagram's great, but to me, I still love talking and face-to-face personal interaction.
I think it's so important.
Yeah, me too.
Especially with something like this.
Yeah.
That it's like what you were saying. It's like, someone might not find, the doll very interesting until you start to talk about it and you put your energy out into it.
Right.
It's like, it's so important. And also, it's a dying thing that's happening. You know what I mean? Like the talking.
Sadly.
Like talking face to face is so hard for people. I actually, that's part of the reason why I do the podcast, because it's just like, I really enjoy having a conversation with someone and learning about them and just sitting through, you know what I mean? And actually being in the present moment kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I guess technically a millennial, so I live with my iPhone and my computer and my iPad and everything, and yes, it's great and it makes life easier, like 100%. But I'm also the person that, like, if I'm eating at a dinner table with you, put your phone down.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't stand it. There's a time and place for everything, and it is, the art of conversation is completely just becoming lost every day.
Yeah.
And so that's why, I want to get out and talk to people. I want to bring people back here so I can, show them kind of home base and talk to them here. And, I love, we do actually do a lot of business on Instagram, and our followers on there are amazing. A lot of them are out of the country, out of the state, so it's not as easy, obviously, to get them here. But I tell everyone that I talk to online, even out in a random restaurant, if I meet them and I start telling them about the store, I'm like, come by, please come by, come check out the store, even if it's for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I know that once I get to talking to them, they'll stay a little longer, and I really enjoy, I really, really enjoy doing that and talking to people and sharing all the things that I know about this kind of stuff. Because like I said, even if you're really not into it and you're not going to go start buying and collecting this stuff, just to hear about it is super interesting.
I mean, I came back.
Yeah.
I literally, before I left the first time, I was like, I really want to come back and talk to you guys.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that I just got to get out there, and get more people in, kind of let people know what we're doing here. I think that there's like a mutual respect also for what we're doing. It's pretty well received over all ages and all different groups of people, and I think that is like really, really awesome too.
Yeah. So to piggyback on that, how can people find you on social media and connect with you and send you emails and being able to talk to you before coming into the store or find information about the store? What is the Instagram handle for Old Ghosts?
So our Instagram is old_ghosts_auditorium, and it's spelled ODDITORIUM. So it's kind of play on words, auditorium, oddities.
Yeah.
Facebook, same thing, just search up Old Ghosts Auditorium, and you'll find us there. We typically post pretty much everything that we find on there.
Yeah.
We ship worldwide, and also I tell people, like, if you're ever looking for something specific and you can't find it, or you think we may have it and it's not photographed or you haven't seen it, shoot us a message. Either we have it and it's not up, or we can probably find it for you.
Okay.
But yeah, we pretty much only really do Instagram and Facebook right now.
Great. And these links are also going to be available in the Meet Our Guest page of the We're So Young Podcast.com, as well with some pictures of up here. That I think I'm probably going to take a little more pictures, but I have a few already.
That's what really entices people.
Yeah.
It's one thing to talk about it, but to see it is like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll have some pictures up. We'll have more information about Old Ghosts and Brittany and Jackson and all of it. So thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. I loved it.
Thanks again for listening to the We're So Young podcast. Like what you've been hearing? Help spread the word. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, and tell your friends about We're So Young. And don't forget to follow us on our socials, at We're So Young Podcast on Instagram, at We're So Young Pod on Twitter, and We're So Young Podcast on Facebook. Let's all get inspired to try new things together. That's it for now. Tune in on the 1st and the 15th of each month for new episodes. Until then, step out of your comfort zones and try new things, 'cause we're so young.